Circle episode of Is It Shit? Today we're looking at the Legio Custode Coronis Grav Carrier. That's a bit of a tongue-twisting sentence. Anyway, the unit costs 135 points and is a transport option, a dedicated transport in fact, for units in the Legio Custode Custodian Guard Talons of the Emperor Army list. There's your fucking tongue twister. Now, for the low price of 135 points, you get Ballistic Skill 5, Front Armor 13, Side Armor 12, Rear Armor 11, and 4 hull points. It is a vehicle, funny enough, and is a fast skimmer. The war gear includes a twin-linked Lastrum bolt cannon, a turret-mounted twin-linked Arachnus 420 blazer cannon, a flare shield, and a machine spirit. The special rules include Deep Strike, Outflank, and Grav Backwash. The carrier has one access point and is located at the rear of the vehicle. I'm showing it to you now. It is important to note that this is not actually an assault ramp, because if it was, those Custodes, who are incredibly good in close combat, would be able to charge out of this thing, and that would be broken as fuck, because they're all close combat rape machines. Hashtag triggered for people who think rape's offensive. The Coronis Grav Carrier has a transport capacity of just 12 models, so you're only going to ever fit 6 Custode in it. Worth pointing out. The upgrade options are Armoured Ceramite, a Searchlight, and Extra Armour. The Searchlight's 1 point. Sure, why the fuck not? The Extra Armour, yeah, I'd say it's worth it. The Armoured Ceramite, probably not. In any case, the rear armor is 11. If anything gets behind this, it doesn't matter whether you've got Armoured Ceramite or not, it's probably going to punch a big dick-shaped hole in the back of your tank. Where this thing shines, however, is it is fucking hard to kill with shooting from the front. This is Steven motherfucking Seagal in the 1980s, not fat Steven Seagal of now. See, the front armor is 13. It actually goes up to 14 thanks to the flare shield. And another thing to keep in mind is that this thing's a skimmer, so it's going to get jink saves. If you don't want to fire the guns on this, just jink. Who cares? I mean, they are twin-linked guns, and you have a machine spirit, so you're always going to get one of these guns to fire a full ballistic skill. So, I think it's worth it. This thing's a difficult vehicle to do damage to. Things like Sicarians, if they do manage to get penetrating hits with their accelerator cannons, yes, they ignore cover, so they will ignore they ignore jink. So, that's a thing to keep in mind. Ignores cover weapons are also something to keep in mind. In close combat, the vehicle actually has a rule called Grav Backwash, and unless it's been immobilized, attackers suffer a -2 to hit. If you've moved this thing just 1 inch in your turn, enemies are hitting you on a 3+, suddenly it goes to a 5+. This thing becomes a lot more survivable, especially since the Melter Bomb nerf and the Grenade nerf means that technically you're only hitting it with 1 bomb. Last thing to cover off on are the 2 weapons on board. So obviously we have the twin-linked turret-mounted Arachnus 420 blazer cannon. The Arachnus cannon is, make sure I get this right, it has 2 fire modes, a concentrated blast and a burst fire. The concentrated blast is range 48 inches, strength 8, AP 1, heavy 1 with exo shock. And it means if it scores a penetrating hit on a target, you roll an extra d6. And if you roll a 4+, you cause a second automatic penetrating hit. And it's inflicted on the same target, and against which cover saves may not be taken. In the burst fire mode, it becomes a heavy 3 weapon and drops down to heavy bolter range. And it basically becomes a heavy bolter with slightly worse AP, but slightly higher strength. Pretty cool little weapon. Now, on the front of the vehicle is the twin-linked Lastrum bolt cannon. This thing is range 36, strength 6, AP 3, heavy 3, solid marine killer. Where it shines, though, is a special rule called heliothermic detonation. If any target suffers one or more unsaved wounds from this weapon and is not slain, they must take an immediate toughness test. If this test is failed, they suffer instant death. In the case of a vehicle suffering a penetrating hit from this weapon, not fucking likely, but you know, add +1 to the result that is rolled on the vehicle damage table. Brutal. This thing is a dedicated transport. It's only 135 points. That's stuff all more than a Predator. It has the firepower of a Predator, if not better. It's also a skimmer. It's also a dedicated transport. It can also deep strike. This thing is off its fucking tits. And, like I said before, this is Steven motherfucking Seagal in the 1980s. This thing is not shit. This is shit hot. Thanks for watching. See you all next time.